I 100% believe that 2020 is Drew Brees' last year to try to get a second Super Bowl on his resume. This is Drew Brees' last opportunity to try to win a Super Bowl. I don't think Drew Brees is going to be capable of winning a Super Bowl next year unless he defies Father Time, and Father Time is undefeated. It's undefeated, people. And while we can say Drew Brees and Tom Brady have stood the test of time, we have to admit they're not the same quarterbacks that they were 5 years ago. Eventually, these guys are not going to be capable of winning football games in the NFL anymore. Eventually, Father Time is going to fully take over their body, and Drew Brees and Tom Brady will have to hang up the cleats. And this year, Drew Brees, this is your last opportunity to get a second ring. It really is, in my opinion. Why do I say this? Okay, well, let me say this. I said when the Saints lost to the Vikings last year, Drew Brees will never win another Super Bowl. Now, I will say the Saints are a very talented team. I still think this team is capable of winning a Super Bowl, but I think this team has a ceiling, and it's mainly because of one Drew Brees. And I said that after they lost to the Rams and the Vikings, that's as good as this Saints roster is probably going to be. And I said after the Saints lost to the Vikings, they were super lucky to run it back and win 13 games. They had everything going for them. They were clicking at the right time late in the year, and they fell flat on their face at home in the first round. And while the Saints have a great roster, that comes at a price, because you do realize that eventually you're going to have to pay Marshawn Lattimore a bunch of money. You do realize that Alvin Kamara is going on a big-time contract extension. You do realize that Ryan Ramczyk eventually is going to want to get that bag, that good offensive lineman that you guys drafted. And I can make the argument that last year the Saints were the best team in the NFC. I don't think that's the case anymore. They've been surpassing their own division, in my opinion. San Francisco is still a real threat in the NFC. Green Bay is still a very good team. And Seattle, they just added Jamal Adams, and it doesn't seem like Russell Wilson is slowing down. Meanwhile, Drew Brees, he has slowed down a lot over the past couple years. When Drew Brees gets moved off his spot, he can't do anything. He can't throw the deep ball anymore. He cannot throw the deep ball anymore. Drew Brees, when moved off his spot, really, really struggles. And the Saints, they're no longer a big play offense. There's a lot of checkdowns, a lot of screen passes. The Saints rely on being efficient. And while that's going to win you a bunch of games in the NFL, if you can't pop offensively, if you're not explosive enough over the top, if you can't thread the needle at quarterback at times and threaten teams deep, there's a ceiling with your team. And Drew Brees, at this point in his career, to me, is probably the best game-managing quarterback in the NFL. I don't think Drew Brees is all that great anymore, And we've seen in 2018, when Drew Brees played a full season, in weeks 12 through 16, he threw 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. We saw last year in the playoffs versus the Vikings, it just didn't seem like Drew Brees had the same arm strength that he had a couple weeks ago. In fact, I've been told by someone that knows people in the Saints building that coaches know that Drew Brees is on a pitch count. Now, here's the thing. The Saints have a very good roster, very good offensive line. You've got Michael Thomas. You've got Emmanuel Sanders. You've got very good running backs. You got Jared Cook, who looked good in the second half of the season last year. So Drew Brees has the support around him. And if Drew Brees were to define Father Time, he could potentially win a Super Bowl this year. But see, here's the thing. The Saints, in my opinion, have a long-term plan at quarterback. They brought in Jameis Winston for a reason. And for whatever reason, they're paying Taysom Hill $10.5 million per year. They believe in Taysom Hill. They believe in Jameis Winston. And Drew Brees is already out here signing NBC deals. Honestly, I don't think Drew Brees plays any more than 2 seasons. And probably by next season, not this season, but in 2021, I don't think Drew Brees is going to be all that great. I don't think that he will be capable of winning a Super Bowl anymore. I understand that Drew Brees, he takes care of his body. He's in great shape. He eats right. He has a very good diet. But sometimes Father Time just takes over, like I said. And here's the thing. When we look back at Drew Brees, if he doesn't win a second Super Bowl, I do think that is somewhat an indictment on his legacy, because when I think of Drew Brees, I recognize that as of August 2019, this guy is first all-time in passing yards. He's first all-time in touchdown passes, first all-time in completion percentage. But if Drew Brees were to retire and only finish with 1 Super Bowl, don't you think that some people looking back at his career 20 years from now are going to say, man, Drew Brees put up all the numbers, but he got one Super Bowl only. Tom Brady got 6 rings. Peyton Manning went to 4 Super Bowls. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Eli Manning and Big Ben Roethlisberger, who were not better quarterbacks than Drew Brees in their prime, they won more Super Bowls than Drew Brees. That's going to raise a lot of eyebrows from some people looking back at Drew Brees' legacy a couple years from now. Combine that with the fact that Drew Brees doesn't have an MVP on his resume, and combine that with the fact that he's probably not going to win MVP this year, and combine that with the fact that Drew Brees, in his 19-year career, has missed the playoffs 9 times, that's going to raise some eyebrows. And honestly, there are going to be some people that are going to negate Drew Brees from the GOAT conversation. And I think that he deserves to be in that conversation. I think Drew Brees is one of the 5 to 6 best quarterbacks of all time. I personally think that Drew Brees has overachieved for his career. I think that he's overcome a lot. I think that he deserves our respect. And I'm not going to be one of those people that looks back on Drew Brees' career and says that he was a disappointment. Because I think that Drew Brees, considering the fact that he was a second-round pick when he was drafted, I think Drew Brees defied the odds. But there are going to be some people out there that, looking back on Drew Brees' legacy in a couple years, that if he doesn't win a second Super Bowl, they're going to say, man, Drew Brees was great, but only getting 1 ring is probably an indictment on his legacy. Drew Brees' last opportunity to right the ship and totally validate his legacy comes this year in 2020.
Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.